Hey, I'm Dave March, the Spy Guy. I haven't done anything with this channel in a little while, and I thought I'd give kind of an update on what has been going on. So when I started this channel, I kind of was like, I was going to do like spy TV show reviews and spy book reviews and all this other stuff that I was hoping to get more involved in. And then life got distracted, and I started doing like angry Tim Pool like rants into the internet. And you know what? That just didn't seem to be something I enjoyed. I did a couple other one-offs where I talked about spies and like did some research and that, but it kind of went away after a little bit. I have a political kind of interview show I do on another channel. It's very niche. It's like designed for a website I belong to, and I interview other people from that website and kind of get my skills. And it's more like personal story hour kind of thing where everyone gets a chance to come in and say, hey, I'm so-and-so. We ask them, have a co-host, we ask some questions. It's kind of fun. But for the most part, I've been writing books. So I wrote none of them are anywhere near exactly ready for publishing. I wrote a 30,000 word novella about a sci-fi captain it's called, currently working title is Recalled to Life. And basically this guy is out in the middle of the wilderness, and then a space shuttle arrives to pick him up, and it's set in the future. And when he's messing around and talking to the guys who've been calling him life, he gets attacked, there's some fighting, he ends up in the hospital, and then finds out there's another story going on where he has to go off and lead one of the last spaceships left on Earth, or like most powerful spaceship left on Earth. But the world has changed. There was a World War III happened, and most of both America and China kind of got wrecked. So he's commanding the last American battleship to go off to Neptune to face destiny, where they have spotted the obelisk, which is very much like it's kind of an homage in some ways to 2001, except I'm not like Arthur C. Clarke or Stanley Kubrick. So it's a lot more action adventure stuff. So the narrative, the flow of the book's novella switches between him in the future and him in the past, where the past is still also the future, but starts with like he's being called to life, and then he's starting at the beginning of World War III, and we get to see, like, we cut back between the two until we get to the end, and you find out what's really going on. And there's some hints along the way to suggest things. So I've learned a lot from just writing a novella, and now I've been working on my first book, and I'm still working on various titles for it. They call it like Hidden World, the Great War. It's kind of like what the title is. I'm hoping to come up with something better. My books are a bit like this or that, but books are pretty good in the sense that I'm like watching all these videos from writers, and I'm like, oh, good thing to know I'm not actually doing any of these things you say you should avoid, except for one. They call it something called narrative voice, and it suggests that in any book you should keep the men. You don't want to be George R. R. Martin can be George R. R. Martin, but most people aren't George R. R. Martin. You want to have only one or a few point of view characters, and you're switching back between them. That way you don't get bogged down trying to like lose yourself. And I did try that one of some of my earlier attempts of books, where I would like have like 20 or 30 points of view, and it was not good. So for the most part, now in my first draft of my novel, I started off doing that, and then I switched down to 3 character points of view for the most part. And that's really helped tighten things up, I find. But when I go back into my second draft, I'll edit it down to make sure those are happening. Another thing I found I was doing was a lot of chapters where I was doing a scene per chapter, and I'm going to go back and start switching that in so that I don't have like 100 chapters. I have 30 or 40 in the end, but that'll come back in the second draft. Right now I'm at, my novella was completed with 30,000, like I said, 30,500 words. So when I get my first draft of my book done, which is at 55,000 words, and I'm hoping to get to 85, 90 is probably goal. I was usually originally 75, 80 was the first, but I think there's just more of this story that's coming out and is happening. The wizard, basically it's set in a world of wizards, the actual historic world, and the wizards exist in that world, but they're kind of like hidden away because they don't want to be, there's never been that many of them, and they have come up with a little bit of rules for why they don't screw around in the world, but they're also not like, I want to say not powerful, but their powers tend to be much more of a personal thing. So they don't have the ability to win wars until World War I, when they can make a bit of a difference in such situations. And it also deals a lot, like, I read this book as a kid called by Sandra Gwyn, called Tapestry of War. And it's one of the first books I've had, which was a real true historiography, whatever the term is. Anyways, basically, it interweaves all these stories and shows how the world starts in 1914. And it's this very old Edwardian world. And over the course of the next 4.5 years, as World War I's fought, they get to another world where, so you start in the beginning of the war, women's fashion, for example, and I'm learning all kinds of stuff. Thank God for the internet. So it gives you the chance to, like, what do women wear at this time for shoes, was a question I had to look into and messed around with. So by the way, yeah, I'm going to try and turn this whole channel into like me trying to explain my writing craft and give people a story and just kind of build up on my being. I might do occasional spy stuff, movie reviews, whatever, when there's actually new movies to review. But for the most part, I'm just going to really talk about my writing and what's going on with that. By the way, Facebook is a wasted time. I've been trying to get off of Facebook. I need it for a few things, including sending like videos like this to my Facebook page. So I guess I shouldn't complain too much about it, but really take all the energy that you waste on Facebook and put it towards something else. I've been putting it towards a book or a series of books. So anyways, getting back, so basically there's three main characters in the course of the book. There is John Green, who is a Canadian officer fighting in World War I with the Canadian Expeditionary Force, and he quickly he gets drawn into the world of wizards. There is Robert, what is Robert's last name? Robert Young is the wizard counselor for England, so he's actually kind of important. And then there is the current love interest triangle, though it's not really a triangle, and it's starting to, I don't want to spoil that. So, but basically her name is Candice Delacorte. She's a Spanish noblewoman who also is a mind reader. So each wizard in this world, you get at least one special power that is your own. And other people have that, but I mean, you get what they call innate abilities, and there's a ranking system from 1 to 10, though the old line wizards don't like the old, that. They're like, the power magic is supposed to be this mysterious and unknowable thing. Stop trying to define it. When you define it, you limit us. And then there's the new scientist classes coming in. We're saying, no, we can measure this and try and figure it out and do all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, that's the kind of going on in World War I, where you have, old clashing with the new, the old monarchies versus the futures of the tomorrow of communism and progressivism and all and suffragism and all this stuff that can be explored through this. And it's nice to be able to kind of talk about things that are going on today, kind of a la Star Trek style, by looking back at the past and realizing that everything that's going on today has been done before, and we really shouldn't get so freaking freaked out by all this political stuff. And that's something I'm trying to show in the course of the book. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about, what the magic class system is. And then I'm going to probably drop this, run this video through an editor and drop it on the channel so people can kind of get updated. And I'm hoping to do at least one blog a week, where I can talk about the books and what's going on in them and like get into the writing craft. So how long has this been going? Who knows? Anyways, the Wizards system is there is levels 1 through 10, and most of the Wizards are only what would have been called a level 1. And I'm going to use it using the scientific terms, even though I'm sure in my head, Robert's like, shut the fuck up. Stop talking about this. Stop defining us. Anyway, so level 1s through 10s, and every wizard gets a special power. The thing about the level 1s is that because it's something unique about being only one thing, you get to use that spell way better than anyone else can. That's their thing. So Robert's got this shadow power, and he can shadow teleport, and he can make himself into a shadow being. And when he's in that form, if you say attached to a truck, he can has the strength of a truck as a shadow creature, which is crazy, right? But if anyone else, so Candace, who's a level 3, casts a shadow power, all she gets to do is be like a shadow and kind of jump around from people to people. It's not as powerful. There's another character named Francis who's a teleport mage, and he's also level 3. So he can instantly teleport himself in a group of people, where it would take Robert to cast a teleport spell, 6-hour ritual. So there's a lot of I haven't really written out all the powers necessarily, because you know what? It allows me to, if I need to, and someone have a new power or something better, they can do that. And yeah, so you have class the level 1 through 10. Now, the only wizard supposedly who had 10 magical innate abilities was Merlin. And I am trying to bring in a little bit of Arthurian legend into this. And when you read the book, you'll see why I'm doing that. And I'll get into that some of that stuff in the later video. So I'm just classifying this. Currently, there's only one rank 9 mage in the world, or magi, as I should call them. But I use all the terms get used interchangeably, pretty much. Magi, mage, and wizard get thrown around a lot in this book, depending on who you are. I don't use the word sorcerer because, frankly, I often have a time writing it down wrong and spell check coming along. And I also it's not a word that comes into my head as easily as some of the other ones. And yeah, so you have, there's only one guy who's 9, and he spent 20 years training to become a 9. He was like the prodigy. He had 8 powers, and he spent a long time getting there. And as one of the scientist mages, Lauren, who is almost at this point in writing the book, I might as well just make her the 4th character. I swear, all the stuff she's doing. And she's just come back from Tibet, where this prodigy mage got up to level 9 by doing this thing. And her paper that will be revealed at Conclave. And basically Conclave is the back third of the novel has to do with this. We spend the first part of the book talking about what Conclave is, or everyone's like, what is this thing? What's going on? We're getting to Conclave. You spend about 25% in the middle, getting there and dealing with life at that thing. But basically, Conclave is a wizard's convention. And as someone who spent a lot of times at either political conventions or at gaming conventions, I thought it was going to be interesting to write about something I know a fair amount about. So right now we just got through the first night of convention, and I have an action chapter I have to write up before I can get on to the second day, where basically the two women always seem to get in a little bit of Scooby-Doo style trouble, but we'll cover that later. But I just wanted to talk about the book and get some interest here. It sounds like that's something I've learned watching some of the videos online talking about writing, is that you should start working on trying to develop people into your orbit to do that. So if you're interested in being a beta reader, or getting some of the access to the novella, which I'm going to go as soon as the first draft of the novel is going to be completed, I'm going back hell or high water to the novella and working on the second draft of that. I've been looking for some more beta readers because I have all these people say, oh, let me beta read your script or your transcript or your first draft. And I'm sent it off and I never heard back from anyone. So if you're interested in getting more, seeing that, I shouldn't say that. I had one friend who said he enjoyed the first 10 chapters. So, hey, that's good to hear. So anyways, if you're interested in getting involved and doing that, if you want to hear more about this stuff, be sure to like, share, subscribe, whatever, because this is kind of coming back as something I'm going to try and do. And like I said, it's just kind of a video blog. Yeah, and just talk about my journey as a writer. And yeah, like I said, we'll get into some spy stuff other times, but might as well just be the spy guy. And this, oh yes, and that's another thing. The main character it's going to be more about spies because the main character, John Green, has been recruited into MI5. So there's going to be a lot more. The birth of of MI5 and subsequent novels because I wanted 5 versus 6 because a lot of stuff that happens in the British Empire, and the remit of MI5 is actually everywhere the British are. And in 1915, they're like 25% of the planet. So there's a lot of places where we can go and explore with an agent like that. And it was not unheard of for an agent to go to MI6, but MI5 is just kind of what I'm doing right now. And other characters will get involved. Oh yeah, and there have been historical characters show up at different times. So be sure to watch out for them. Anyways, I think I've rambled on enough here. I'm going to run this through the video editor, and this is the update. See ya.